Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset. Welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I am here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. We are going to be talking today about your gyms or your whatever program you're a part of, New Year challenge, right? We have a challenge at the gym that we've been doing. This is the 6th one, I believe. It's called the Reset Challenge. And I'll go into some specifics of what it is and why we do it, but I don't want to make it only about that. There are several programs this time of year, right after the holidays, January, New Year's resolutions that kind of are meant to help you get the ball rolling towards whatever goals you have. In most cases, not all, it's lose weight, it's, change my lifestyle, work out more, eat better, right? And for whatever reason, right, when the year changes, it makes people motivated, right? Like they put their last year in the rearview mirror, they want to put their best foot forward. And in most cases, it's something that's really aimed at improving something in your life that you just want to be better at. And a lot of people stereotypically after the holidays feel overweight, they feel tired, they maybe even a little bit stressed out. Holidays are great, but they also stress us out in several different ways. And then you get into January, there just is not much going on coming up. It's just a very dry time. Not many people go away this time of year. The kids are all in school for most, unless you get the snow days and whatnot. But it's one of the few opportunities throughout the year where it's like a solid 5, 6 week, 7 week window where you really can put your best foot forward with a challenge. And when you surround yourself people that are doing the same thing, it makes it even better. So I kind of wanted to go into reasoning behind these things and maybe the biggest concept I feel people can benefit from in something like a Reset Challenge or the Mayhem Athlete Challenge, like all these things, right? They're all over the place. Sam, opening thoughts on Reset. You had a funny line last night. We took the coaches out for dinner, just on what your goals are with Reset. But, I appreciate Sam on this stuff because he's always honest about it. He's always transparent with it too. So, but you can go into your personal experience, but also just from a coaching perspective, an experience perspective. What is your view on these kind of challenges at the start of the year? Because they do get kind of corny, right?
They're good. We've been doing it, like you said, for 5, 6 years. And a couple of years, it was like the Lorong Challenge.
Yep.
And it was paired up with some exercise, and there were different nutritional challenges with that. And then the past couple, we've been doing it just as a group within our gym. And every year it's really been helpful. I probably have learned more about nutrition and myself every year than anything else. It's literally, you can think of it as an experiment on yourself. It's like, what would happen if I tried this nutritionally for myself? And that has taught me a lot. I mean, I remember the very first time I did one, it was paleo, but I didn't really understand what that meant so much.
Right.
So I was sitting there eating boiled eggs and
you hated your life
and
back
sausage every day because I was like, well, this is technically paleo. And it was a good experience because I learned, as I went along every year, how my body reacts, like what works, how long can I really push things? And sometimes you realize, hey, listen, this is not exactly where I should be with this. And so you find a good way of living your life for the rest of the year based on what you might want to challenge yourself with for those first couple weeks. I will say I'm a little burnt out. So last night we were talking about it, and my spouse Susan she's so good. She's so disciplined.
She gets perfect points all the time.
She's like a machine. She knows how to get back into reset mode. And this is actually really healthy for her because she does let herself go during the holidays.
Mm-hmm. Most of us do.
We go on vacation. She doesn't feel too guilty about it because she knows, listen, when January comes around, I'm going to get back to, being really healthy. And she knows, and these cycles have helped her know exactly what to buy, how to prep, how to get back into it. And for me, I'm a little bit of a rebel. I don't like that. So I'll eat and do everything that, she prepares.
Yeah.
But then, just because I'm such a contrarian, every night, because we get points for eating healthy, right?
Yeah, I'm going to go over that a little bit.
Yeah. So after I eat all the healthy food and do everything that's super correct, I'll take a handful of peanut butter M&Ms every night and eat them in front of her just because I'm like, you're not the boss. Like, no one's the boss of me. I could do whatever I want.
Oh, my God.
But I will say...
So Susan has three teenagers in her house right now.
That's right. I'm the worst rebel in the household. But then I realized, I was thinking about it last night after that. And I said, who am I really hurting in this?
Right.
Like, Susan doesn't care if she, I could do whatever I want. And she's not going to sit there and be like, oh, like, be so disappointed. She knows me. So I said, let me get back into the spirit of things. And I've done this enough times. And you know what I did last night?
What?
I downloaded MyFitnessPal.
Okay.
Got the premium subscription.
Nice.
Did the macros.
Good.
Set it up.
Nice.
So
good for you. That's awesome.
So I decided, listen, why do I have to be the contrarian? I know what I need to do right. And the part of it is that I know that every time I count macros, it's very time consuming.
It is.
And there's some effort into...
It's overwhelming sometimes.
It is, but...
Especially when you go out to eat and stuff.
But it's been like 2-3 years since I've counted macros. And I said, listen... I don't care about the reset score per se because I already pulled 1 or 2 points every day for this past week. But I said for myself, I'm going to get back into the counting macros for the rest of the challenge. And and I feel like I'm doing it for myself.
Right.
And I'm glad that we've had these challenges because now I have the experience to know like this is what I can do with it.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I'm going to go over what we think the reset challenge was built on 5 factors that we think really contribute to a healthy life, right? And I'm going to go into what they are really quickly. I'm not going to explain each one of them like I do in the emails to our members, but I want to kind of tell you why we think this is important and why setting it up this way is important because we've done a few different challenges, a few different versions. They get pretty complicated with like websites and apps and all this stuff, and it drives people out of it. So I'm going to kind of get into that. But we think that nutrition, hydration, sleep, exercise, and alcohol intake are really the 5, you want to call them pillars of health. You might get some kickback on that or, hey, this is much more important than that, right? But those are the 5 things that we factor into the reset challenge. And basically you get a point for following that section's rule every single day, right? So if you follow your nutrition guidelines and we don't make anyone do anything. We say, hey, come up with something that is your nutrition guideline. It could be macros, it could be paleo, it could be zone. It could simply be at the most basic side, like no processed sugar or no dessert, honestly. For some people, like that's like, we just talked to Allison Warner, her episode will be out next week. Meet people where they are, right? We're not going to force feed. That's one thing I didn't like about some past challenges and some challenges out there. You can't force some people into eating a certain way.
Great point. All
right. So it's like, hey, come up with what you need. Let's take your game to the next level. If your game is very low level with nutrition, we're not going to have you go into macro counting. It's overwhelming. All right. So we felt that those are the 5 important factors. And it's a simple process, right? It's a spreadsheet. And you literally write in a box every day if you got a 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. And we always say, hey, if you're getting 4s, you're doing a really good job. And it makes people think in a responsible way, hey, I know I'm eating junk food tonight. I'm going out with my friends, right? I'm going to try to make sure I get my sleep, all right? If you have a lot of 2s and 3s, like Sam just had this past week, and some things you cannot control. Right now, we have a 2-year-old that doesn't sleep very well. There are nights where we just don't get our sleep. I tried. So now that I know, like, hey, I want to make sure I'm still getting a 4. So I didn't get my sleep last night. I'm not going to have a drink tonight. I'm going to eat perfect. I'm going to hydrate and I'm going to exercise. But hey, maybe on my rest day, I don't want to exercise. I'm not going to rest. I'm not going to exercise today. I'm going to make sure everything else is perfect. And when you live like that, right, you're not demanding perfection from yourself, but you're not letting it just roll like a snowball out of control. So that's kind of what our reset challenge is in. Again, we're not going to spend too much time talking about that. But that's where the premise of most challenges needs to reside in. They need to be, hey, how do I set up a healthy lifestyle to supplement what I'm doing at the gym? Because we all know this, guys, right? If you show up to the gym and you crush it and you work hard, it's not enough. I will applaud you, pat you on the back. A lot of people don't do that. So you're kind of out of the norm by the fact that you did do it. It's not enough, though. That doesn't make you a healthy person.
Yeah, it's 1 hour of your day. And we've all heard 23 hours the rest of your day is what really determines how healthy you really are.
Mhm.
And it's hard. I love the flexibility of our challenge. We've done challenges that were so much more rigid, and we had lists of food, and it was like,
Right.
could you eat this?
Yeah,
Or could you not eat this?
Yeah.
And that was really
This oil, but not that oil.
Right.
You know, it's like, ugh.
and we constantly got questions like,
Right.
is this actually okay or not okay?
Right.
It was so funny. I just remembered one of them was, it was a pretty strict paleo challenge, and we were so sick of eating the same vegetables
Yeah.
over and over.
Right.
And Susan was asking me, hey, listen, I don't want to do steamed broccoli again. Like, is there some other vegetable we could do? And this shot my credibility with her forever. But I said, well, how about corn? Corn's like a vegetable. And she's like, oh, right. Okay, I guess it is a vegetable. And so we ate it. And I think she posted it on one of our gym's Facebook, food things.
Private groups.
Yeah. And someone pointed out corn is a grain. and
So you are not eating paleo.
So you're not, and you lost that point. And she was so pissed at me. And after that, I can't suggest anything because she's like, yeah, remember the corn thing? Yeah, okay. So I do love the flexibility because you're right. Life doesn't make things perfect for you.
Right.
And we always say, give yourself some grace. And if you can do the water that day, but you can't do the sleep, perfect. If you can but you're always constantly working towards getting yourself better and being more consistent and stuff. And I think that accountability does matter. So the fact that you're doing it in front of others and making yourself known that this is what you're doing always helps.
Yeah.
And that's why I love taking these 5-6 weeks. And honestly, it helps us as a gym because it's before the open.
Right.
It helps people sort of get tuned up.
Yep.
Helps them focus on their health.
Yep.
I love that.
Yeah. And I think something you touched on earlier, it's educational. There are things you're going to learn from. If you actually do go in this with a disciplined mindset, not perfect, just disciplined, and you're trying to find different ways to eat clean, I think that's one of the biggest battles people have with nutrition on Reset is they'll eat the same thing every single day for a week or two, and then you start getting sick of it, and you just don't know what else to do. And there are so many ways to hit your macros, eat paleo. And the amount of information that is shared, even in our Facebook group, whether it's recipes, advice, what foods should I eat, what foods can I eat, is corn a grain or a vegetable, right? That kind of stuff, you learn on it. And I think that's where the shortcoming is for a lot of people. We can call it discipline for some, and yes, that is an issue for some. But I think a lot of people just don't know, what can I eat? What else is out there? And that's when having a group, we have 130 people sign up for this thing this year. And the fact that, there's a lot of smart people in this group, good cooks, people with nutrition backgrounds, people with anecdotal advice on stuff that they've gone through in the past. When you bring a sea of people, it makes you feel fully supported. And our spreadsheet, you can see what everyone's doing. Right? If I really want to go see what Sam's scores are, I can click on the letter S on the spreadsheet and see what he's doing. Not that I'm going to be creeping on people, but I even know my numbers, right? I had a day this past week where I didn't stretch. It was I forgot to. So I was like, I got to get 4, right? It was my rest day. So there's 2 things I didn't do, and I was so pissed. And I'm almost embarrassed to write my 4 because someone's going to see it, right? Owner of the gym gets a 4, right? And so again, the accountability is a good thing. Now, I think the biggest obstacle that I've experienced with Reset from our members, right? And every year this happens, no matter what kind of challenge we do, is people quit after a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. In the past, we always make Reset based on the opens. We basically start the first or second Monday of January, and we go all the way till the open. The open has been going back and forth with when it starts. And there was a year we did, I think it was 9 weeks.
Oh, that was a tough one.
Yeah. And people were not happy about it. And most just at some point threw the white flag up. This time it's only 6 weeks. And I've had requests for 5. I think 5's too short, but 6 weeks is enough time to really see a change.
Yes.
All right. But it's not overwhelming. And my challenge to people is that if you've gotten off to a rough start, all right, you had a bad first week, whether you didn't log, you're just screw this, I forgot, I'm too busy, don't want to do it, or you're starting to lose some of the motivation. This concept of momentum is something I've been thinking about for people. It's pretty easy to start for the first day or two, right? Start eating clean, you plan a couple things. day 3, day 4, day 5, the weekends start to hit, and it starts to really get hard enough to the point where you go off your diet, right? And you have a cheat meal. Not the worst thing in the world, right? Balance is a part of life, and I'll get into that a little bit later, okay? But I would challenge everyone. I'm going to be texting someone after this. He asked me yesterday for some nutrition help and exercise help, right? Is you really have to get like that first 2 weeks out of the way. And if you can, now you have momentum. And think about like what momentum is, right? Like you roll a ball down a hill, right? It starts off slow. The further down the hill it gets, it goes faster and faster and faster. It keeps on picking up speed. That's what you could be. Like that first few steps, like it's hard for you to like not eat what you normally eat before bed, not eat what you normally do when you're watching football on Sundays, not drink what you normally drink with your friends on Saturday nights. It's really hard. But every single time you do it and you come out on the winning side, it will be easier the next time you do it. All right. Another example, I just started a PT on my knee, and the first 2 or 3 sessions of doing these like single leg squats to a box, like they actually hurt and I felt weak, and I knew I was going to feel weak, but I'm like, I was not cool with the fact that it actually I was in pain. And I just did it for the 3rd time today, and they felt awesome. And like, again, it's easier. And it's all about momentum. Now I can't wait to do it again, right? It's all about momentum. And I think we see this all the time with people, especially that have like sugar addictions or sweets, right? They almost start to feel sick. They get these headaches when they stop doing it. They go cold turkey.
I was just about to say that.
Right. And then the second you get over that hump, it becomes natural and easy. I have someone in the gym right now going really high fat, really low carb. Not keto, but high fat, low carb. High performing athlete, right? A little nervous to make a change like that right before the open, but there's a few reasons behind it. And I remember telling him the first time I did that, at the end, it was the best I ever felt when it came to like CrossFit fitness, going like just moving my body and everything, right? Got lean, all that. But I remember there was, after 2-3 weeks, I would go to the gym, and 2 or 3 minutes in, I was so foggy and weak, and like I wanted to give up in all these workouts. And that is enough for a lot of people to throw their hands up in the air and say, this is not working for me. And you have to know that when you're making a big change to nutrition, your body is not going to feel like it has. There are going to be some negatives that come from it, but I want to challenge you guys that if you can gain some momentum, it is not always going to be that hard. It's like starting CrossFit. Remember when you started CrossFit, Sam?
Oh my God, they're so hard.
And just like every day, it's just like, oh, I don't know what this is. I don't know how to hit the wall on a wall ball. It's like, I don't know how to squat. I don't have to lock out my elbows, like everything, right? And now but you gain momentum because you kept showing up, right? And now things are natural and easier, I should say. Thoughts?
All of those experiments that I have done where I cut out all the sugar, all the processed foods, you're exactly right. About a week and a half in, I was getting really bad headaches for a couple days, and my performance suffered. And I was like, what is this? And then and at least 2 or 3 times when I stuck to the strictest paleo ever, I felt the healthiest I'd ever had at the end of the 6 or 7 weeks.
Right.
I also was looking at every billboard and commercial for pizza and saying, that's what I really want.
Yeah.
So I understand the fact that sometimes these challenges are not livable every lifestyles.
Right.
And nor are they meant to be. But for me, I learned so much about myself in terms of, okay, maybe I'm not going to cut out all the processed foods or sugar in my life.
Right.
But if I keep them down low, I know my body will be healthier for it. And so why not experiment and say, hey, listen, let me do this and try it and see what happens. And that's why you have to stick it out for that, 5-6 weeks. The other thing is, it's like every WOD out there. You might find it easy to start the first minute or 2 of any WOD, but where is it really sticky? It's like halfway or 2/3 in, and then you're just like, oh man, I just want to put the barbell down, or let me just take an extra 5 or 10 seconds rest, and you want to break. Well, that's where this also goes, and that's where the counting of the points and keeping with it also help. The other thing is you want to finish strong. Like I'm one of those guys, I will never be the first out of the gate to start a WOD. I'm always the slowest on that first round. But I want to finish stronger than anyone else at the end if I can.
Right.
And that's what these challenges are. When you get halfway through, when you feel like man, this stinks. Like, oh my God, I have to go out this weekend and I'm going to be the one sitting there with club soda and carrot sticks. Like, you know what? Finish strong. Do it. It's not the end of the world. And
Right.
after the 6 weeks, I mean, you learn how to mitigate and sort of moderate and give yourself that time to try it. And if
Right.
you do, the knowledge you will have gained and the experience will help you every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah. That's something that I also want to get that message out. This is meant to help the rest of your life. And I can't tell you every single year, dude, this is 6 years in. I've had people come up to me multiple and say, hey, like in the middle of summer, like, hey, what I learned in Reset, I'm still doing to some extent.
Yes.
Maybe not as strict. And
Yes.
like, hey, this is what life-changing is. And it's not anything dramatic either. It's just like, hey, I'm really cognizant of my water intake, right?
Absolutely.
90% of people are underhydrated. And if you do CrossFit, it matters, right? So like one of my strategies with my water, I'm doing 60%. I'm doing 125 ounces of water a day. And one of the things that I wish I did this at Legends, is try to get 60 ounces in. So about half of my water before 9 a.m. And like, it makes the rest of the day easier. And like, again, that's a trait. That's something that I learned during Reset that really helps me feel like a safe and good athlete. The concept of balance that you brought up, right? This is a catchy word now, right? Because, society has become a little bit more empathetic towards like mental health and we're trying to be nicer to each other, right? Maybe not everyone that's into, politics, but in generally speaking, right? I think that's out there now. That message is like, we need to be nicer to each other is out there. So the word balance is used a lot, right? Hey, I'm trying to be a healthy person, but I need to go out and have a bender this weekend because I need the balance. And I'm all about it. I'm fine with it. Like I had drinks last night when we were out with the coaches, took that point loss. To me, that's balance, right? But where does balance become you're going too far in that direction, right? Like how many times do you need balance, right? If you really have a goal for Reset, weight loss, aesthetics, performance, right? If you're constantly saying that you need a balance, setter every week, every 3 days, I think that quickly makes the seesaw go in the direction of you're getting further and further away from your goal. So do you have something objective in your head that you would say, hey, that's the proper amount of balance? Because I think that's where a lot of people struggle.
That's a really good question. I think that's individual for everyone. For me, it's what I feel like I can do every day reasonably.
Mm-hmm.
And I've worked on water.
Mm-hmm.
One year I really focused on that. I've worked on food a couple times. For me, it's about working within myself, and my life in some ways has gotten better as I've gotten older in terms of my work responsibilities and what I have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I was going to ask you, what do you think this year is the biggest challenge for you in the Reset Challenge? Like, what's the hardest thing personally for you to hit every day?
I mean, in terms of willpower or just my life, like the sleep is really hard to get right now.
Okay.
Because of just, I have a weird hours for my job, but that's always been hard.
I was going to say, isn't sleep always been hard for you?
Sleep's always been hard for me. It's harder now because of, a 2-year-old just doesn't sleep well. But, that, again, not excuses there. There are things I can do better. I think we can go to bed earlier. Ash and I talk about that sometimes. So the sleep is always an issue. I'm trying to go back to my high-fat, low-carb way of eating while I'm not training that much. And it's already kind of starting to shock me a little bit. Like I felt that in Friday's workout. It's only been a week. I started a couple days early, and it's, when you get used to eating certain foods, like I'm big on like eat a lot of rice, right? And other like high carb foods. I've been doing that for a couple years now. And to take that down, I was eating about 320 grams of carbs a day. I'm down to about 100 to 120.
So you keep track of your macros?
Yes, definitely on the macro. So my challenge right now is trying to go back to that high fat, low carb way of eating, which means completely changing what I'm eating day to day.
What is your macro breakdown right now?
So percentage wise,
yeah.
So basically I'm eating 200 grams of fat per day. And that adds up to about just under 1,000 calories, right? 200 times 9, just under 1,800 calories of fat, under 100 grams of net carbs, and then 140 grams of protein.
Wow, that's really low carbs.
Yeah, it's low. Net carbs too. So you deduct the fiber from anything that has the fiber grams from the carb grams on whatever has that. So I've been 6 for 6 so far, And I even went into dinner last night, keeping like another 60 grams of carbs. I got there pretty hungry last night. But it's a really hard way to eat until, again, you get the momentum. Like there are certain things that you forget about. Oh, I can't eat that. Like it's just not worth it, right? Like there's too many carbs in there. I'd rather go with the high fat foods.
And what's your total calorie count for the day?
I believe it's 3,200.
Okay.
So it's still pretty high. I'm still eating a lot. And that number might come down because, again, my training volume just isn't there.
So what's your go-to food when you're hungry and you're like, okay, I got to eat some?
Nuts. I mean, I eat a lot of nuts, avocado, a lot of vegetables right now, and meat. Like I try to fill up on meat as much as I can.
And is it hard because you have a spouse who's not doing what you're doing?
Sorta. She's eating clean. We've never really been on the same page with food, like in terms of like.
Well, your goals are different anyway.
The goals are different. And also, we have different tolerances. She likes different things than I do too. So it's not that the spouse thing. I would never use that as, oh, I'm having a hard time because of that, and so that's never really entered my mind with it. I just think the challenge is like really trying to find like what more foods to eat, like more snack type foods, because right now it's just trying to eat big meals, fill up as much as possible, have some extra protein, have an extra avocado throughout the day, and then a lot of nuts, and then all of a sudden, you just have a little bit left at the end of the day to fill out what you need to.
Is it more expensive to eat the way you're eating now as opposed to your normal?
This is where meal delivery services help. I've got into Trifecta, and they have a keto menu. Even though I'm not eating keto, a lot of their foods are very favored towards that macro breakdown. So that's helped me a lot. Because I'm not a cook, Ashley doesn't cook either. So I think that's something that can open the door. Like I got into Trifecta because of this challenge. And a lot of you guys would benefit from getting into a food delivery service because of this challenge. And that simply just makes the decision for you. What are you eating today? Because the spontaneous decisions are what make a lot of people go off.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I'm hungry. Like, don't go food shopping when you're hungry, right? And that's where a lot of people get caught into trouble, right? It's like, I'm starving. I'm going to find something in my house, all right? I'm going to have a little bit more of it. And those little things, they add up. And I think that's where a food delivery service makes it easy. It's, hey, it doesn't look like a lot of food, but it fits the macros. I am eating enough, right? Like if I was eating 2,000 calories a day, that's just not sustainable for me, right? So that would, you lose weight, get lean, blah, blah, blah. But you need to find something that's going to help you sustain. I think that meal delivery service can help out. The last thing I want to get into about any sort of challenge, right? They're meant to be inspirational. Right? Like you never want to do this stuff by yourself, right? And I get inspired by the people at the gym all the time. I try to help motivate, inspire other people. Again, like drink the Kool-Aid, be involved, do it too. That's part of my motivation. Right now, I'm not really training for anything right now. So some of my past motivation with Reset just isn't there. And so I have to find a different way. But I think part of it is it's my job, right? It's like people will do what you do. So that I want you guys to kind of take that as responsibilities too. If you're doing one of these challenges, if you're doing the Reset Challenge and you're asking yourself, you probably are asking yourself already, do I really need to do this? Why do I need to do this? Right? You're asking yourself, right? Yeah. And my answer might be like, take yourself out of it, right? Maybe it does. Some people, this does not help, but it helps me to know that if I do it, someone else is going to do it too. And if I stay on the track, someone else is going to stay on the track too. Whether they notice or not, we're all looking. Right? Like I'm watching people at the gym and I'm going to see if their movement changes, their body changes, right? Their energy, their mood, their all that. Like I'm going to be watching that for the next 5 to 6 weeks. I can already tell some of the differences in people after a week, physically and mentally. And that inspires me. Any thoughts on that? Because that's a different angle to it.
Yeah. I mean, finding that motivation for yourself is important. And at the end of the day, and I talk to people all the time about how they look and how to look better and what to do. And one of my go-to catchphrases is, listen, we all have to take self-responsibility.
Yeah.
So I can, Dave, you as a coach, you can try to help someone, but at the end of the day, when you go home, what are you really worried about? You're worried about your own body.
For sure.
I can try to help my patients, but at the end of the day, I have to worry about my own body and what I do.
Right.
No one, your parents, your family, your friends can all try to help you look better, feel better, be more healthy.
Mm-hmm.
But at the end of the day, you have to take self-responsibility for yourself.
Right.
And that's part of why I decided, you know what? I am reacting again to my own experiences and
Right.
and just out of a sense of spite. And
Right.
what was that doing for me?
Mm-hmm.
Nobody really cares about my body
Right.
except for myself.
Right.
And so I need to take responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
And I know what I needed to do in order to take care of it. And so instead of sort of rebelling against this, that, or the other thing, I said, listen, let me just take self-responsibility. So if maybe you're happy enough with what you're doing. Maybe
Right.
you're like, I'm not so bad.
Right.
Well, you know what? Is good enough for you?
Right.
Or do you really want to say, listen, what can I do to make myself better?
Right. And try to think about what you want months from now.
Right. And even if you're like, I don't have any specific goals other than to be a better, healthier person, this is an easy opportunity to do it. It's literally, I was like, wow, why am I passing up this opportunity again? Just because I've done it 5 years in a row, I'm going to pass up again. I said, it's served up to me on a plate.
Right.
It makes it easy for me.
Right.
Like I have friends who are doing it too. Like, why do I have to step away from that? So I said, you know what? I'm going to step up and take self-responsibility and do the right thing for not because somebody is necessarily watching or that, because it's for myself.
Good.
And I feel like for anyone who says, if you feel like you're in optimal shape, that's great.
Yeah. Right.
But if you feel like, you know what, maybe I will just try to focus on my water this time. Or maybe, especially for me, sleep too.
Right.
Just take the opportunity and you don't have to focus on like 6 different things.
Right.
Focus on 1 or 2.
Baby steps. Yeah.
And if you do that, like, awesome. Like you will have made yourself a better person after 6 weeks.
Yeah. Agreed.
And it doesn't have to be overwhelming. You just have to do the little things a little bit at a time. And that adds up to a lot.
Yeah. Gain that momentum, take baby steps. It will get easier the further you get into it if you stay on it, and give yourself some grace if you have a bender, right? A 1-day bender. I'm not going to tell you not to do those, but just get back on the next day. You know, I've had a lot of people that count macros. That's one of the things they like the most about it is they went off their diet, lost their macros that day, but you just start from zero. The sun rises the next day, you just start from zero. And that's a great way of always looking at it. So we hope you guys got something out of this. You know, we know that these challenges to start off the year, they're tough, and you're going to have peaks and valleys. You're not always going to be motivated. You're not always going to be disciplined. Maybe some of you are. But if you can just stay on the track, what Sam said, take the baby steps, enjoy the small victories, and understand what the bigger picture is here. It's not just about the next 6 weeks. All right. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.